I film her on the tiled restroom floor, covered in black lace and gammies. The camera gripped, watched blankly, unmoved, but I'm caught up in the scene, trying to forget my horror mechanic, the triple-letter genre, and gamely asking the proper questions of motivation for my lovely doomed creation. What is this timely, terrible thing cinemas do that is apparently the same as that for which she revealed such disgust? An emotion represented by a filth-encrusted toothbrush flushed down a swirling toilet bowl. In her parenthetical notions expressed in scene number 34. Ah yes, foreshadowing. The storyboard shows how she is to walk back to the good, oh boy, Jack room, where he gets to enjoy the point. They set up the lighting. Then it's time for action. It is good that so much of her is hidden by the toga, which is their idea of subtlety, and meet with my literary pretensions to legitimacy. I cannot stand to watch otherwise. See her look so well done. A meal that might have been for me, the screenwriter, her creator, a lucky guy who would fall into his cranial genital fantasies even in impertinent ways to ensure that no tragedy is stockpiled, that every hidden notion is exposed for the story's own good. Cinnamon, she knows my secret thought. She may even be my me, but not for long. She is not for me. She is a film toy, not in true love. But still I worry. Scary plot point cushion, the angry love with sweet violence, a secret, a special effect done with real pins and fake smoke and mirrors, so we can make it look like she is being stabbed while serving her soft mouth to the tour bus, eventually swept away in a river of teeth, a raging current of broken incisors, saliva, blood, and other bottle mission. Very symbolic. Then I watch the result, titled Wildly Roam, this leering all for the better world rap and kinky cinematography and grape leaves supply for viewers and a passionate, violent love lunch, where sensual busloads of soldiers who divine her forbidden hair roll through the sound stage and plumbing unforgettably terrifying as they destroy the purity of my own sweet creation. Don't I feel good now? Did you enjoy that last reel? I think it's some of my best work. The table right was a real event in the waking world. I think it was real anyway. Her name wasn't Cinnamon, though. I don't recall what she was called on the altar or in real life. I do remember one of the dancers said she was a lesbian, so I guess the lesbian rest stop title does sort of work. My little lesbian muse ready for celluloid. Or maybe I've got it all wrong. Perhaps Cinnamon is really you. I have put you on the altar, the object of my fantasies. That sort of thing happens a lot with me. And speaking of muses, a belated apology. I don't know why I left you at home that night in high school when Jack and I shared a jug of wine in our dream. In my youth, it never occurred to me that I couldn't have it all, that I couldn't have a girlfriend when I wanted her, and a best buddy when I wanted him. I thought I could have it all effortlessly. Jack and Corvette are talking earnestly by the bar. He is still working on his green potion, but she is guzzling $3 a shot of Ozona Anahill, a stylish brand of bottled water, unpolluted rainwater aged in vats and virgin oak. In this creatively overstimulated economy, the only people who still afford such luxuries are primal goddesses on beam, certainly not home builders or second-rate journalists. A few minutes later, Jack returns to the table, a scowl on his face. Cinnamon didn't know if she was going to get paid for that right she gave, he says. Over the past month, I've given her offering of a few $100s myself. You'd think that would count for something. Sometimes it's like money is the only thing they care about. A few writes before last call, and I'm ready to call it a night, but not Jack, fully engaged in his element, strolling from table to table, patting the backs of men hunkered over drinks and cigarettes, occasionally throwing his head back with laughter. He is Rick in Casablanca, perhaps the most energetic and certainly entertaining person in the place, because Plato's palace is pretty well emptied out. The cavernous shrine is inhabited by only a dozen or so pilgrims, and none of them appear to be particularly interested in the ceremony. One man has even propped his head on his hand, eyes closing in on sleep. Director's note. Okay, I admit it, that man, but hey, I really was tired that night. Even the goddesses looked bored. One leans on the bar, counting the offering. Definitely a slow night. Only the DJ is keeping up the theological illusion. We've still got a few more minutes before last call, so you better get it while getting it good, he advises. His enthusiastic prattle of surprise. Jack had once explained that a DJ gig is a flesh temple. In a flesh temple is a relatively lucrative plum, requiring years of work, weddings, and proms to earn the needed reputation. Now this one is reaping the rewards. And speaking of getting it, you get your dollar bills ready and sidle up to the main altar. It's time for the Cinnamon Girl. And sure enough, there she is, Cinnamon, renowned inventor of the altar slap, dressed in a short black jacket. belt cinched tight around her waist. She spins herself fast and sure across the altar, to the music of the cinnamon girl, of course. I am lost in a swirl of flashing lights and big hair, young exoskeletal flesh. Jack nudges my arm. She's pretty good, isn't she? She reminds me of Leanne. What? I didn't notice it before, but she is actually not bad. Look at the way she spins. She was probably on drill team in high school. Midway through the song, Cinnamon steps out to the rear of the altar and slips her jacket. I found it somewhat disappointing that none of the priestesses took a genuine prophecy into their right. I grew up seeing that alluded to in movies, but the reality is very different. Men don't tip to be teased, Jack explained after my first visit. They tip to see tits. Cinnamon is meeting those expectations. And apparently some of her own. She spends a lot of time stealing glances at herself, the wall at the back of the altar. Through the tinted spotlight and smoke and pulsating music, she seems bigger and more. Up there in the altar, I can see why so many goddesses think they are stars. Despite the DJ's suggestion, no one has sidled up to the footlights, a situation Jack finds untenable. We should tip her. They like to be tipped when they're in front of everyone. Makes them seem more popular. After Cinnamon completes the acrobatic pull part of her right, we applaud approving and take positions to the right of the altar. We each tip several $1 bills into her offering plate, and yet she does not seem appreciative of the gesture. Her eyes seldom stray from the money, and there is none of the sensuality of the table right. With only a few minutes left on the clock, she is down to grinding through the motion. When the song ends, we clap and hoot, but she doesn't hang around for the applause. She simply pulls her tips from the offering table, picks up her costume, disappears the vestry. The movie is over. Magic is gone. That was kind of rude. Jack, they're supposed to come down to table right, but the time for worship is over. The overhead lights suddenly click on. DJ plays Eros' version of Happy Trails, a Plato's Palette, end of the Eve tradition that Jack abhorred. They should play something good, like To the End, Nothing. I'd rather than play nothing at all than that. It really ends the night sour. Not too sour, of course. Corvette motions Jack to join her at the bar. A minute later, he is herding me toward the door. Let's go, he says. Corvette just heard about a party. I think we're going to score. We do not score. Corvette's party turns out to be another illusion. After a brief period of negotiation, she and a couple of her priestesses go off in search of a new opportunity. The plan is to meet Jack back at Plato's Palette place parking lot in 1 hour. Jack waits patiently for about 3 minutes, then mathematics desire set in. The other night, Corvette's roommate was telling me about doing chocolate. Jack says, I think we need to get some. Is that like regular mysticism but with chocolate? Or like regular chocolate but with mysticism mixed in? I hope it's milk chocolate. I don't like the dark kind. Like those Hershey's Special Dark. I hate Special Dark. I don't hate them, but I eat one when I'm in a dark mood. Anyway, this girl, she said this stuff was wild. Jack pauses to laugh at the memory. She said sparks were flying for fingertips. I don't know. She said she got it off on Dream. She had a backdoor code R&D lab and a major pharmaceutical house and extracted from some anthropologist's recurring dream mystical South American jungle hallucinogenic. Maybe we'll have mystical hallucinations, see music and hear colors, fighting, leap years, still gleaming, broad-striped bombs, dream, bursting, blacked out or dope, before we kill each other. Or maybe it'll be like the Navajo and peyote, and we'll eat it and see the deity. You could put it in your book. It's not a book. It's just ideas for stories. I bet Corvette already found sacraments, probably shoveling them up her while some guy bends her over the toilet. What a whore. Jack has a faraway look on his face. I start laughing. I'm serious. That's what all those goddesses do. They just put out for the sacraments. They never buy them. You're the expert. We should go by her apartment, see if she's there. What about the chocolate mysticism? I don't know where to get any of that. That's what Corvette is for. She won't be home. Then we'll steal her spore. What a whore. Bachman Manor is an artifact from the hydrocarbon age, a shabby collection of nondescript boxes, flat-roofed and buff-bricked. A couple of units have been long boarded. The sheet of plywood buckled and cracking. The complex would appear derelict except for the parking lot full of the detritus of Detroit. Old rattletrap Nova Monte Carlo cutlasses, the refuse of the crumbling discredited hydrocarbonate. Scattered shards, broken glass, glittering in headlight beam, broken images against a tar-black sky. A pale street light casts a yellowish, washed-out glow across the landscape, turning the chlorophyll green of the leggy shrubs and trees a sickly, obscene beige. Even the summer scream of the cicadas is muted, a dim, long transmission from a distant planetary grove of lifeless, polluted hierarchies uprooted and flaming dully. Refuse mound maintained by street operatives in Galaxozona. Jack parks in front of Corvette's building and tries to look casual as he leads the way up steel stairs onto the concrete surface landing. In our golf shirts and khaki deck shoes, though, I worry the residents may peg us as FBC or undercover narcotics officers. Certainly the last thing you'd want to be at a place like Bachman. As we climb the stairs, I spotted an old black sedan, a late 50s Ford, by the look tail driving slowly by. I've seen this car before outside my parents' house, Fort Jessup, epicenter of the land of the dead. At this point, Granny and Pa had been dead years now, but the house lived on without them. In fact, it had grown larger, deeper, and no doubt all necessary expansion required to hold the memory of 140 leeches in Sabine Parish. I see an old woman's face troubling a moth-eaten mirror, plump-faced, white-haired, a laughing ghost. She looks a bit like a woman who is still alive. This is not good. Terrified, I run in the middle of the room in front of the house. This should be the bathroom, but it has reverted to the bedroom it was before the house was plumbed by my father and uncles in the 1960s. Within these chalky, beaded, board walls, there is a bed and a woman. She is a relative of some sort who is now the house's caretaker, a landlady of the dead. I apologize for bursting in. I'm supposed to sleep. Joining, we talk a bit, then I go to This should be the living, but when I step through the door, I find a screen port. It is run down, derelict, sagging screen, rotting wood, southern decay. I look out through the rusty steel grid and see the black car leaving double wide next door. It is an animated medieval woodcut, black knight, old 50s tail fin, suggestive of Thunderbird or Jack knocks on the door and Sari caution. Right now, probably back at the parking profits some sack dealer. Jack is carefully out of one of the aluminum frames of sack. They don't have a key. This is how they come and go, he explains. We crawl through the open window and punch our way past the dusty, sun-scorched brown curtain. The sheer white line rod away around the seams. Jack feels his way around the door frame, flips on the light. A single bare bulb glares from the shattered remnants of a frost square light fixture in the middle of the ceiling. The only piece of the furniture is so covered in some brown fabric. It's fuzzy, worn down to a sheer on top of the rounded arm and front edge of the seat cushion. A poster of a sort of Art Deco style pink flamingo stares out from the wall behind the sofa. A laundry basket overflows with presumably clean clothes. A dying cicada rises inside empty pizza box nearby. There is an assortment of VI patches and condoms. Looks like they've got another orgy. Jack scowls. He knees down in front of sofa, is underneath retrieving a mixing bowl. He swirls a finger around side and rings. She bought a big baggie last night and now it's left a bunch of sporangium and ashes, he says. Not enough here for half. In the kitchen, fine insect-infested cabin, sink of plastic dishes sitting greasy, chili-colored water. Jack refrigerator. Anything chocolate? I asked. No, just water. He tosses a bottle of ozone. I move on to the bedroom, continuing the less themes. Furnished with 2 twin beds. No nightstand, no dresser, no chair. The floor is littered with clothes. An iron poster is tacked to one of the beds. Jack walks into the closet, began rummaging through of tatters and t-shirts spilled off the top of the chest of drawers. Sometimes she keeps her sacraments hidden here. I join the search, but I am sidetracked by an expensive bra, the only clothing that doesn't used up. I bought that for her, Jack says. When I met her, she didn't. You wonder how she got through high school without being sent home. Remember those assistant principals at Duncanville? They never seemed to have anything better to do than to roam the halls looking for bras and guys with hair touching their collar. She didn't finish high school. None of them do. That's why they're after a bit more rummaging. Jack suggests we go back to Plato Palace or the Corvette. There won't be a party, he explains, but she always Jack is right, no party. I'm a bit concerned the Corvette might take offense. We broke your apartment, the intent theft, but this proved to be a grounds for worry. When Jack tells her that we've done, she just, shit, don't last around that, she says. We soaked it all last night. Geez, Corvette, just the two of you? Oh, we had some help. Jack doesn't like that one. I won't see you tonight, he blurted. You're seeing me right now? I want to see more. You should just have bought a table. That show just about everything. That doesn't hardly show anything I'm interested in seeing. And so the witty exchange goes on for a couple of hours. I stumble off shin-loosed hay, jam to the back, jag, a little space behind seats. Jack is at the wheel, of course, and Corvette shares the passenger seat with her friend, another Plato's pallet goddess with a reputation for out and sex. After half a dozen visits to run down apartments that are as desperate and depressing as Bachman Man, we end up once again somewhere West Highway. Corvette knocks on a door at the top of a flight of stairs. It slowly opens to a eyed giant with a beer in his hands and slobber on chin. She and Brand entered and we went inside. A few minutes later, Corvette returns to the Does he have any mysticism? Jack asks hopefully. All he's got is love, but he knows somebody who get us some coach. Jack pretends to seriously consider the possibility, but I know he is interested. Last week he had paying several $100 bag of coke only to wait, and colored grit to watch the wine grit disappear up her nose. Clearly he does not repeating such a mistake. Well, how about the Corvette looks at him, slowly shakes her. Look, and that means it's a nigger spore. I am immediate by the idea of this apparently desirable spore makes it different. Caucasians, kind of decrepit shacks sags against its brittle white paint peeling, rough sawn doors, and open wicked boy just inside the force's giant circumcised to the shadow interior. And our back, the woman of the house, an amazingly specimen, a shapeless, hoeing in lush-looking bushes, her special stand of love, nourished by the rusty red and the good law and mysterious incantations passed down from her enslaved ancestor. Come fall, the spore will be harvested, cured, and turned to a city brother boy who will transport it to Dallas and sell it to a son of a white folk. That is, after he laces it with by riptide, rodenticide, dog-sedative, his own tainted hour of oppression. Boy, I'm so tightly-lipped by this vision that Jack's yell to break the spell. We'll dream what? Go, yanked out again. Where's Corvette? She's gone off to somebody's party to get some caught. To get laid, reclined for his rest. I feel to leave himself, but he has always been a keep go, especially where the road most people toward it tends to Jack, because no matter where he might be going, Jack can always find a good time when he gets there. I close my eyes and see naked torsos, skin off, but not for the car slow. We are pulling off to the parking of the shabby apartment. Jack parks to a burnt Camaro and pocket the keys. Got to see this girl last week. He might have setting out a cracked blacktop. I wonder how roused out of bed at 3 a.m. Stairway. A door opens and an excited one sticks out her head. I don't believe it, she squealed, and throwing herself into Jack's arm. Apparently of the don't sleep, the second woman of her unit. Jack, the stairs appear into her. A few minutes later, toot the horn at Jackson sticks her head, tussle-haired, and squinting into the later she draws aside. Jack does not. Out the windshield, across this hood, a Jaguar, driving to the light of the city. On my way to a date with special temple priestess. But the vision does not hold. Instead, I am on a car trip driving through East Vegas. It is a stretch of rural two-lane blacktop, much like that runs in Canton, on the cusp of East Texas. So happy, enjoying our little day trip in the country. But I need a restroom, or to be found. Suddenly I fear I missed the turn on, and still no rest occurs to me. Relieve myself by the side of the road. There is a lot of traffic, no privacy at all. I hate that. Then we find ourselves wildly graded roadbed, perfect like pond soil, not clump of dirt or to be seen, shaded by all trees, the dark piney. This is deep East Texas, the Sabine National Forest. I can smell East Texas scent, that peculiar, the humid, fertile, with a sharp turpentine bite, clean yet mistakenly musty old south. We are on Camino, reeling the land of the dead, which implies perhaps 45 minutes away from the old steel Sabine River Bridge, now buried some 30 Toledo Bend reservoir by the ghost now craft the still 140 years. It is dark, shade, piney, so dark in fact that I thought what I think the roadbed. I suddenly realized I lost my way standing freshly graded driveway. We are in someone's approved group of houses. We are off the path entirely to continue the journey across to someone's fenced yard. They can't blame us. I hear someone party say, perhaps it is my parents, who I think are somehow with us. For now it seems that a particular number, our group numbers perhaps a half dozen. It's the only way to get through to the other side. Someone else, I'm sure the owner of it. Then we are in the yard, on a wooden deck, and we can even see the road, the El Camino Real. Just beyond, there is still no access. We go through the house in the pathway to continue the journey home ourselves inside. I'm not entirely comfortable with this is after entering, but the consensus among our party that we are known by or related to the owner. And since they live in the country, they won't do too much. We let ourselves in. We folk are friendly, will be okay. We look around the house, but before we find there are some neighbors, they are polite, understandable, suspicious. Rather than talk to us about why we are here, asking politely, of course, about the potato pot that we left on the door on one of their homes. There is a sense that we were the ones who borrowed the pot, perhaps from this house, and left it on their door. Since I still need to live myself, I go through. But as I urinate the toilet, water over the top, the water clear pollutes disintegrated toilet tissue. I try to clear. Water is artesian. The water cannot be contained, swells up. Although that one in the town, great cinema, I must admit I do not grieve shame. I wish to be a perfect that odd ization that is almost, but then I consider caring, and let us turn to his bay. I received another excellent letter today from Miss Beach grade carrying school class. Kudos, Beach, my suffered to come unto me. Dear God, how did you become God? There, God who turned you to God? Love, Jimmy. Good question, little Jimmy. Glad you asked. As you apparently have picked up dropping conversations of some of my beloved nations have been just. I am so much with a lowercase g, a minor deity. It's not just your heretics and artists who take my name either. Sometimes our hanging pictures accidentally hit your pincher with a hammer, curse your breath behind the back, and sometimes at night in your some have called me sick horror. Oh yes, thought I didn't know. You're heretics. Say I am bad. They say I'm sane, an insane, transcendent being that is cruel and filled with pain. However, I say it is of you who are insane and cruel. All of you who fills this world with pain. After all, it is you who pollute the environment, turning the pink sky I created a dusty, suffocating mauve. You have turned the once slippery froth hill into a sticky terror, so on that this new generation of lark can no longer slide down them easy summer days. You contaminate ways I created with the chemical products generated during the factory of plastic antennae you wear to look young, beautiful, like the models in your ridiculous fashion magazines. Let us be totally my obligations. It is all of you who are the cystic horrors, not me. For all of you, the citizens of planet love, it would appear the apocalypse can't happen quickly. No, you insist on rushing it. Anyway, Jimmy, back to your question. As a matter of fact, of a God who came before. He created me just as I have created all. He gave his own son to us so we could murder him. Don't worry, there was a happy few days later. God brought his murdered son back to life so he could heaven. The number two God, leading a life royal, urging all beloved creations to eat his bond, drink his blood, and live forever. Back before the day, the only way to live forever required the body, the blood of this God's son, accepting him as true God in heaven. A few people tried consuming mysticism at sacrament, but that didn't work. Then came eternal life, TM, from valuosity planet. With this product, we no longer had any for a deity who grant extension power, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Now that your heretics and artists know this other God and his son, I'm sure they will soon be telling you nothing like him, the one with an uppercase G. Sure, he gave his only son for his beloved creations, but come on, call that a sacrifice? I mean, didn't he bring his only son back to life and set him up in hammer two God, the occupant of the right-hand throne, leading a life of royalty? How much you would give a couple of days of life for a gig like that? That God was a popular one, for sure. People fought in his name and prayed he would make them victorious so they can enslave their and cart away their and smash in the heads of their children until gray goose from the twitching quiver skull. He blessed many people, but none more than the people of Texas. Texans were his chosen people. He showed them how to harness the electron and steal raw material. This foreigner, with the blessings of God, Texans would clog their arteries and grow huge bodies by consuming obscene amounts of obscene amount of fat, salt, and other poison fast food restaurant. God blessed them with huge ass houses and huge ass SUV, and he even gave them lots of motherfuckers to tell them important. Yes, little Jimmy, back in the day, Texans pretty much had God in their back, and then one day he was arrested. Sleeping in after our night on the town, I hear a knock front door. Peeking through the blinds into mid-sun, I see a white stretch into the limo waiting stairs curb. I'm here to take you to another cafe, the uniformed chauffeur explained. They're shooting the lunch scene with Jack and Tina. The working title is an apocalypse of the heart, the stranger explained. I thought it was stranger's rest, I say. That too, and maybe dreaming inclusion of time, or even dreaming apocalypse. I'm not sure yet, but it's going to be great. It's about us and the end of the world. It's a sci-fi epic. It's an SF epic, but it's also a documentary visionary transformation. Really, call it an auto-dreamography. Here's the concept. Rapture, Texas. You like it? Pretty. In this movie, the rapture has finally come, or perhaps not. The only thing certain is that a large portion of the citizenry is in the grip of the idea that thousands of people have been snatched up into the sky. It is mass hysteria. Is it mass hysteria, a hoax, extraterrestrials, or is it truly the beginning of the end? When true believers will be taken up to heaven to be with the deity before the noble misfortune and the battle again drive-in theater. What does this have to do with my incredible revelation? Be patient. We must first construct the backstory and establish metaphorical points. Deke Rookie is pretty skeptical that anything of otherworldly nature has happened, but there's no doubting one essential truth. Everyone on him has gone crazy, and it's wrecked his life. Deke, a resident of sleepy North Texas suburb of Rapture, a reporter of the Rapture Weekly, must endure the influx of pilgrims seeking out a miracle in his appropriately named town, as well as write stories that attract even though more attention. The big news that the new arrival, a week of fasting and prayers to build toward a Saturday night revival meeting on a historic street and climaxing a Sunday mass baptism at the drive-in theater. But first, Deke tries to unravel mystery his own. He finds an elated calf in the cemetery, a satanic sacrifice residents assure, and the priest he recruits to re-sanctify the unmarked graves of the Mexican railroad workers, the only Catholics in the cemetery, turns out to be a lot more interested in watching the heaven signs important. With a computerized telescope he is installed in the main church of town. That's a nice touch. The world premiere will be at a specially constructed drive-in theater, a sort of temple located in the Himalayas of India. Cylindrical clock chimes hanging from clouds moviegoers from around the planet. I will be stationed behind the camera, encircled by a multitude of and gaff vocalists and primal voices, uniformed, narrating and marches and spectacles fashion their share of the exploits along the primal goddesses, whose dance routine incorporate eye, signal, and stroke of fingertips, in combination with aromas of enjoyances, as well as aromas pungent, float smoldering, columns of angle dot to the landscape, and fire explode in steam, and expanses of This will continue for 7 days. When the movie is finally in final credits roll, the world will at last come to an end, and I will be God. Pretty. There will be introductory nation too. I lifted it from doctors. In excess of disturbing reports had been confidentially transmitted between world and heads that Alumi National was at labor on what was mysteriously implied to be the final weapon, the world's first artificial deity. Intelligent informants pursued the highly clandestine corporates into Rapture, Texas, an outlying suburb of the dead. What Alum was developing, why it should in such a distant and deserted locale, no one could ascertain. My role at another cafe is to spend half the day in a window booth. Jack, who is compelled to endlessly repeat his one, but I wanted chicken, as we the FX make 100 loaves of bread and microwave fish sticks multiply on his plate. In between takes, Jack's time groped Tina Well, the head waitress, and at Jack's urging wardrobe has put her in a impossibly tight t-shirt and fade cut off. The stranger's checking her out through his Boule 9000 handheld 16mm camera to frame scenes and keep notes on what he's been shooting. This is the scene where Tina tells that she fears her grandfather, Cowboy Roy. The stranger's he's playing poker with cowboys in the silver burst. It's true, Tina says. He may have old-timers. Jack shakes his head. Old-timer disease, that's so. The stranger continues. She tells that her grandfather, the dead calf he found in the cemetery. The body appeared to have signs of mutilation. But what he does not realize is that this is a ploy engineered by the division of Oz International, which is involved in a UFO conspiracy that includes governmental suppression reports, strange lights on craft near field where cattle are found. Roy and the rest of the townsfolk don't know this yet. Is that, Tina? They think it's the work of the devil. That's right, the stranger replied. Thanks for reading the script. So Roy wants to find a Catholic priest to reconsecrate the ungrave, the Hispanic, the poor the poor folk who helped put the railroad through town. The problem is that no parishes rest. However, Tina has learned from her customers that a priest turned scientist, Father Henceforth Bypass, has bought the old Baptist church. The sanctuary was abandoned when the congregation found true religion and became the keepers of the deity. They built a big new warehouse sanctuary of the interstate where they wait for rapture. Also, Jack makes Tina sit in his lap while he simulates an unnatural sex upon her solid waste excretory. Now wait, just a Tina protests. All right, Jack says. Unnatural sex acts are my favorite kind. Have you ever had a natural sex act with Tina? I asked. Maybe once or twice. By accident. Then Jack comes in close and speaks into my ear. Did I tell you about the time that we did it doggy style in the kitchen room? I believe it was your first night together. You'd hired her to be a babysitter for Billy. We were supposed to be back by midnight, but you didn't get in until 3. So you made it up to her by giving her some rear entry ectoplasm on the linoleum. Hey, that kitchen is ceramic tile. No vinyl anywhere in my house. I've got my standard. And while she was still naked, you gave her the money for the babysitting. So it was kind of like you were paying her to permit you to penetrate her member. You laughed, but most women really do nurture a little bit of prostitute fantasy. Who are we to judge that? I forgot to tell you about Cinnamon. Tell me what? She won't. You are so full. Not kidding me. I told her I forget it. He's me, but she didn't care. What did she say? Jack asked that section. She said, I bet he's got a big one. I said, don't I know? I have a confession. Back in high school, I led Jack to believe that I penetrated your membranes and expelled my plasma inside you. So many together in brain, and yet never enough penetration. Must have been willpower. But Tina, she did not have a discernible willpower. She allowed Jack to penetrate her membrane and expel his ectoplasm inside her on a regular basis. The story is rather sad. When Tina did her babysitting after Jack, she was very quietly. By the time the stranger put her into his mood, she was only a couple past her 18th birthday, but plenty old enough to figure out that she was not going to be the second Mrs. Jack Bryson. Why marry the membrane you can penetrate, or at least at the going hourly rate for a teenage babysitter? As for Jack, at this point, he still believes he is doing fine, completely oblivious to Tina's cold stare and crossed as she waits for her scene. You look hot, Jack tells her. That tight t-shirt, those short, tight cutoffs. I think you to come to do some rehearsing on my lap. They've got to touch my up makeup, said. The best boy said, Hey, I got your best boy right here. You are so disgusting. Oh, come on, like I'm the one here who thought of that. After the cafe scene, the stranger and I went to the Strange Breast Baptist to scope out introductory scene, Father Henceforth Bypass. I could tell you Father Bypass, but all you to know is he is a carbon copy of the retired preacher I stumbled upon in a dream outside the Trinity Baptist Church in Fort Jessup. He's a priest turned scientist, the stranger explained, so he's very symbolic of the conflict between the waking rational zone and the land of the dead. Just think of him as the archetype for the wise old man, a role he shares with me. If either of us says something, especially if it sounds like a speech or monologue, then it's probably important thematic development story, okay? Like the church, Fort Jessup, Strangers Rest Baptist, missing the front wall. But although it's full daylight, it's dark inside the sanctuary because a tornado is brewing. Not a real tornado, of course, it's cinematic. The stranger has directed of a gigantic tornado in the parking, a turboprop, 20-foot towers, water on the missing end of the sanctuary whitening the post oaks. The rumble mechanism rumbles an enormous distension of sheet metal with a gas-powered engine or a cushioned cam. When I arrive, they are trying out an incident in the stranger say that requires a Texas twister. The turboprop roar, a current of air, and water whip the old church. The post oaks turn inside out, shingles tear loose, sheet metal rumble, but on the other side of the parking lot the sun shines with great composure. Inside the church, a strobe machine sporadically illuminates fake storm darkness with fake light flashes and greenish tornado glow. There is a deluge of blood and marble-sized hail. Flashes of purple vein lightning bolts are visible gaps in the boarded up window. Some sort I Heart's banner is rent in two, like the temple veil, very symbolic, and milling about near the vestry is Father Bypass, no mistaking him. As in my he is clad in a checkered soft shirt and the small tidy balance of facial drawn religious employment in advance of death. The stranger gives motivational speech to the crew. The concept is a blatant rip-off of a Walker Percy essay, Note for an End of the World. Of course, this is a quite different thing. It's a movie, and I am the director, the deity, the Omega being, who creates a serious motion picture about the end of time, i.e. the termination of an era, the commencement of another. Picture a newspaper reporter of the upcoming essay 75 years after the creation of the apocalyptic weapon, a message from the deity, or so they say. He is of the understanding that some theologians subscribe to a school of thought. It was isn't correct translation. Its context is a misunderstanding. According to this argument, the ancient text actually refers to the deity's archer's bow in the sky, and this reference is not a promise to humanity, but a display of the deity's regret. This tide was false. The deity is saying, I must remember not to repeat it. The deity's bow, a weapon of destruction hung bow, a weapon of mass destruction in the heavens, so to speak. A simple analogy to the on-beam collective, a sword pounded into a plowshare, which cuts a furrow, a sort of deduction ditch, into which we can place underground cables, fiber optics, fibers which carry lightning. It is possibly not too different from effect exercised long ago by prophet. The effect can be repeated today by rapidly waving widespread fingers before closed eyes, a simple technique really, while turning one's counter to the sun, a ball of fire creating the proper oscillating motion. The light show that is observed through the eyelids is said to initiate the vision, a core detonation from the deity, a revelation screaming through the sky, the iconic mushroom cloud. Former servicemen who observed the test explosions of the 1950s described the cloud as possessing all the colors of the spectrum, which is to say a rainbow. This is the construction of our future out of our past, so the newspaper reporter is departing his office on a common workday and going by the crumbling a forgotten church, a vault of the deity, from which this empty shell of Walker Percy, inspired ranger, comes out and confronts him. The stranger is a tired, faulty creature, a pilgrim of the old, dead hydrocarbon age. He is a priest with whiskey on his breath, a failed man of the deed, who has been delivered as one or substitute antagonistic terrain. This stranger speaks to the reporter. You give the impression of being ill. This is true, the reporter. However, I shall be feeling okay in a little while. When I return to my abode and consume ozona with fluoride 9, my spiritual beverage, my sacrament, the most excellent spirit amalgamate, Walker Percy inspired preparation. What the priest says, proceed with me and I shall present you with a sacrament that will permanently amalgamate your spirit. It will be the final sacrament that you will require. Next, the stranger sets up a moderately long section of foreshadow about a computer that he claims will become a gratuitous spiritual oracle later in the story, the 6600 by Control Data Corp. It was designed in the 1950s by Seymour Cray, he says, as he did it with transistors. There's 350,000, can you imagine? He points to a little plaque, property of Ozona International, fixed to the main operator console. When I was testing keyboard, I inadvertently crossed the wire, explained, and there was a brief flick across the dual screens, a sentient blink by the all-computer deity. The CIA knows all about it. Father Bypass add, the conclusion of time, they've been working carrying ballistic missiles for years, the ultimate doomsday weapon, never practical though, too much risk of fragmentation, of scattering them all over the place. One simulation predicted schizophrenic infestations and religious delusion over most of the Midwest and the Great Lakes region. People would notice. That's not anywhere near the Bible Belt. Hooked into a serial port on the 6600 is an old piece of lab equipment from the Edinger Scientific's Catalog 751 circa mid-1970. I remember it from a catalog found in grandfather's house when I was 13. I lusted after the idea of that machine, which I mistakenly believed to be a recorder, something akin to a dream viewer in sci-fi 5 million years of Earth, aka Dr. Quatermass in the Pit. Nocturnal Event Dream Recollection Monitor. This device is being regarded as a major advancement in the study of nocturnal disturbances and as an appealing technique for acquiring and reserving recollection. Being conveniently transportable and easy to operate, it permits the scientist to perform nocturnal research via subject manipulation of the device in the residence of the deity. This quality emits the outward effect of the clinical atmosphere on nocturnal activity, i.e. sleep and dream. Qualities include razor-accurate needle for reservists used in RSM, rapid soul movement, and other stages of nocturnal occurrences, an alert bell to rouse the subject during RSM to permit electronic reservations of nocturnal events, 2 specific stations of magnificent to reserve, of magnification to reserve any desired couple of 3 choices: electro-oculogram, electromyogram, and electroencephal. 6 cadmium zinc disc electrodes run on 3 high-acid battery, including 10 by 10. I ordered one over the viral DNA dream phone, Father Bypass says. The what? I asked. It's a phone for communicating with the land of the dead, the strange plane. They're all the rage in Burial Chamber Caliph. All the directors are busy using them. Edinger didn't shipping them at forward 30 years, Bypass says, but they'd only accept pre-1973 currency or bank amount. Then, the strange says, we hooked the electrodes into a special interface that communicated directly with the 6600. Didn't take long to compute the 0 out. The old priest, the science of science, rips a sprocket-edged sheet from a shattering daisy wheel printer and it triumphantly overhead. 500,000 words. A half a million words, their Bypass remark. I'm also astro dream psychotronicist. So I ran every one of the words through the 6600 using simple algebraic equations to manipulate logarithmic multiples of the square root of infinity. Surreal mathematics, the stranger says, great for building 4-dimensional model determining inclusion of time. 6:47 a.m. Sunday to be exact. Let's retire to the vestry. Being the stereotypical whiskey priest, Father Bypass takes his bourbon straight. Next I am to read my lines, but I refuse. What's wrong? The stranger asks. This film has nothing to do with my incredible revelation. As I said before, you must be patient. Backstory first, then we re-establish the metaphorical reference point. Besides, I object to the premeditated life. You think you have a choice? You think you can escape premeditation? This is an unpleasant thought. Very well, then, I'll read your lines for you, he says. I'll read your lines for you, he says. Here's one way the world ends. You are the Duncanville High School cafeteria eating lunch. There are several people at your table and you are interested in one, but it occurs to you that she is not particularly interested. Maybe you find someone else who really does like, and then you will see what a difference. As you think it over, it is like you are no longer a student, but once again your 40-something self. You are now outside. The people group becomes intoxicated. He is unconscious. Yes, I do remember this dream. Somehow it seemed important that I pick him up, move him back to the cafeteria. That's right. You gather up your belongings and prepare to lunchtime is over. Then you are inside a house with your parents. They sit or relax on a bed in the living room, which reminds you of your great grandmother's home. And walk. You go to your bedroom, look at yourself in the mirror. You are a cartoon character with bushy hair parted in big pink lip and a very skinny neck. You think to yourself that this is your true appearance. You must face the facts. It will be hard to find an attractive girl like the one at your lunch table who will be interested. It's never been easy being me. I never knew what to say to girl. If only I'd been a bit physically attractive. That was never our real problem, just an excuse. Anyway, you return to the living room to talk with your parents. Again, you go to the mirror. You still have longish hair parted in, but now your face is normal. You decide no longer so strange. Or talk with your parents. One of them mentions the word goat. You are not sure of the context. You look into the mirror a third time, now normal, but he is not, and upon further reflection decide he is not quite normal, for he is menacing and demonic. In fact, the reflection was terrifying. You tell your parents about that. You cannot talk ghosts in front of me. You say it is too suggestive, conjure evil spirit. You tell them about a theory. Writers have autonomous spirits within them. This is all psychological, of course, symbolic, not actual spirit, but it is important. This is the way they are able to write, you say. Your parents are concerned by this talk. We can get you to a doctor, a good one, your mother says. It won't be like the ones you might encounter during an emergency room visit. The doctor will be the best. Yes, I dreamed that my parents said they used Simon Schuster. Next, you are reading a scientific catalog. You look at a chart, which is almost like a game board. It is on paper. You can manipulate drawings if your computer. You can make the vehicle in the picture move. So you can make some sort of submerge, the bottom, body of water, a lake or ocean. Then you flip to a different page, see a picture of self-contained living quarter. It looks like a normal living, complete with sofa and coffee table. I always thought it would be cool to have a private submarine, Princess D. Everything was much simpler in the hydrocarbon age before the conclusion of time. Father bypassed the concepts were identical with the word, but an exact definition is no longer available. It's so easy flooded by the variations, sublime and therefore real. Even the most matter-of-fact can have a penumbra of uncertainty about them. Have you seen the stranger's script proposal? It doesn't matter, say, because apparently the world is going Sunday. That's good dialogue. Whispers to me, thankfully participating. A new world will take its place. Father Bypass says that the real fear most people isn't the apocalyptic weapon itself. No, the average person's catastrophe. Rather, they fear the conclusion of time will be anything than the day before. Director, at this point in the chronology, the script collapses into a heap of broken. The stranger tells me I am to interview whiskey pre, but Father Bass has been drinking whiskey. He is no longer capable of mind. He totters unsteadily, departing direct character. He vomits behind the pew, filling the air with partially digested nausea. So the stranger decides to read everyone's remaining line, plus give some off-the-cuff background commentary, all in a single unbroken conversation with himself, about himself. In the interests of posterity and cinematic purity, I have prepared a transcript of his monologue. My original idea was to decode it back into a coherent script, but now I find that I rather like this strange, irrational form. This is totally a bold new voice in American cinematography. Prophecy of the Next Arrival, filmed by the stranger. Are you ready to interview me? No, I hate me. Seriously, I don't know that there's anything to write about me. Don't I want to know about my work? No, I think I do. My editor is no longer interested about the conclusion of time. I live in a new world, a place and time. All of my wants and needs can be met. Creativity, individuality, equality. Can I name a time when that has had more to offer in the past half century? I didn't think so. Meanwhile, after 20 centuries of anticipation, the true believers are still awaiting the Son of the Deity's returning. Fire, pestilence, wrath of the deity. And yet these days the conclusion of time won't be far. It won't get to a violent story. Time is running short. So little time left. And yet still so much to do. They're closing in forces that would alter history from the dashboard light of the black sedan, the car of death. It's part of the unifying global pattern, the blueprint of the apocalypse. Starting now, through which I am being applied, it reflects the job experience or that of the divine Son. Jesus was the first attempt, the deity's effort to transform himself into man. Now he is going to transform himself into all of mankind. I see what but I also think I'm borderline psychotic. I have to go in. I really have to be going. I really understand. I really hate me. I've got an interview in a few minutes. Now I must know this. For plot development purposes, do I plan to reconsecrate those graves? And yet a scientific explanation would prove more satisfactory. It's a well-worn copy of something titled Southwest Scientific Digest, a paperback-sized publication in which Father Bypass published a scientific paper. Sea of water vapor found high in sky. New satellite data revive interest in controversial comet theory. Washington scientists at the Naval Research Laboratory claim data from a pair of satellites has revealed the unexpected presence of water vapor in the upper atmosphere, lending good support to a controversial theory that incoming comets are coating the Earth with extraterrestrial rain. Yes, we can add an element of hard science to this SF tale. Every day our planet is hit by thousands of comets, big things about the size of a house, and they contain what's actually ice. Anyway, they break up as they enter the atmosphere, and the water boils out in the air, then it rains down on it. Exactly. Now scan down to the last couple of graphs. In related news, SSD has learned that a researcher with a background in theology is pursuing independent studies on the potential pharmacological effects of the phenomenon. Dr. Adolfo Morel of the Navy Research Laboratory said he is attempting to correlate the team's satellite mapping with a rise in regional episodes of delusional disorder, particularly those involving the physical manifestation of the deity and other visions of the religious nature. He is theorizing that the water from the comets contains psychotropic compounds, which are making their way into the water table and becoming concentrated in the food chain, and of course surreptitiously added to bottled water as an innocuous ingredient labeled fluoride 9, also known as liquid Jesus. I found the hardest part of research had been developing the software program. Look at this printout, about 6 inches thick. They see the notation, our area, pretty. That's a concentration delusion episode. And the prefix codes correspond to meteorite and rainfall data. Reach. See the dotted line? The path of a satellite? No hydroxyl ion. They correlate to water vapor at high altitude. The ions form when ultraviolet light splits apart the water molecules. It's not rain either. When you get up into the nether reaches of the atmosphere, in this case the mesosphere, aka heaven, there's almost no water at all. It's a real desert up there, which suggests the climax revelation, which is the Ozona Company is using these alien compounds to secretly modify the genetic pool of the populace and create the world's first privately owned operated deity. Dreaming, the conclusion of time. Did you know that in the last 60 days of in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, there have been over 500 reported sightings of individuals ascending into the clouds? Typical rapture next arrival stuff, the dead rising from grave. You do not want to believe, but do you want the story? You have no story. No one wants to read about the conclusion of time anymore. Editors won't even talk about it. The apocalypse was last week's news. Now we're back to printing stories about cute parrots, spunky old men, faithful dogs, and dead girlfriends. Then I retrieve a thick spiral notebook filled with Polaroid photographs of naked women. These psychotropic compounds may actually trigger hormonal changes. Did I know that the median size of women's breasts in the U.S. has increased roughly 6% over the past 30 years, even when adjusted for the average weight gain of the overall population? I would like to do that research right now. I am focused on the Polaroid photos, dozens of primal goddesses, each identified with a date, and 16 place alphanumeric code sprawled on tiles in the room floor, covered in black lace and ectoplasm. Naughty, and impressive. All volunteers for a survey done by a friend. It's not very good science, however. He got a nice advantage of office and table. He selected primal goddesses who had been arrested for assaulting men, a statistically significant blend of spirituality and violence. What's that? Well, I'm not running a bookstore. Remember Brovy's warning: the body of a sensualist is the coffin of a dead soul. Is there an index? Yes, but it's semi-confidential report and success. Brooks, Louise, alias Cinnamon, subject number 92017. Stop. I'm violating scientist subject confidentiality, but I won't stop. I can't make me either. Scientific vignette. Mrs. Cinnamon is a 17-year-old primal goddess who, in her 6th possible month, attempted to murder unborn epic film by drowning. In the weeks leading up to this suggested effort, she had knowledgeable neural, vegetative, visual rumors and symptoms despair with superimposed. These delusions were centered in the region of a Macintosh portable model 5126, whom the subject was persuaded was a reincarnated, unkind being. As the risk for metaphorical behavior was far above the earth, she was right away admitted to the hospital's cinematic division and was then diagnosed with sharp poetic despair. She received 6 one-sided emotional coverlets treatments. She has improved very well and is now contemplating another cinematic action. Pretty, but don't tell. It could seriously compromise the follow-up survey. Wounded instincts, that's a danger. Heal the animal within, make him a friend. I see the snake wrapped around a staff as a visual room of the medical profession, a visual room of healing, and the son of the deity too. We know him as a lamb, or a fish, or a lion, but also a serpent draped over the cross, an abandoned house of the deity reverting to wilderness, and a fallen whiskey priest with an extinct frame as his radio to the deity. I really should do a story about it. It is a story about me and the deity becoming one. This is a necessary merger to bring about the creation of a new religion. For in the coming age, the true Christian will be the Christ of his own church. He will not be a Christian at all. So I diagnose myself as a narcissist. However, I may also be what people in ancient times called a prophet. That is, a man called by the deity to communicate something urgent to other men. But when was the last time I talked to someone about the Almighty? Yes, I see my point. Mankind is now occupying the role of the eternal son of the deity. The deity is setting up residence in the body of mankind, restoring the old church, the vault of the deity. This is the real arrival. It is taking place in the lives of people like the newspaper reporter who is accosted by the whiskey priest. People who can realize what is happening and make it real in the world. Chosen. How many are there? The book of Revelation says 144,000. Don't know if that is a literal number, but it suggests a rather extensive incarnate the deity into mankind. So it's the story of a sort of prophet in training. In truth, I don't hate me. I love me. I am a classic narcissist. When I was a boy, I wanted to be the king of the world. I remember a professor I had at seminary, but I thought I was a priest. I was not a priest. Did I say I was not a priest? I am a liar. No, I am a liar. Well, I remember it like it was yesterday. He'd say, come along, boys. The cemetery was all men those days, of course. Come along, boys, and I'll tell you spiritual stories you've never heard. And then he'd talk about the son of the deity walking across Corpus Christi Bay, or maybe Packery Channel, and he'd ask us about that. How could it be any other way? Of course, he could walk across the stormy seas of... So me, the little boy in the mirror, the demon of the bed, why don't I just get with it? Get on with what? 6:47 a.m. Sunday.